from South Africa, from Africa, and they also keep a very low carbon style. Then after they got success in those foreigners, they started to realize that they could target a much larger group of Chinese citizens who want to escape from the hustle and bustle of city life, and so they are very adapted to Chinese culture. They include some like feng shui in their architect design. And one thing I thought that really precious of Gao is that he always learned how to communicate with government from different levels, from the basic village level to the higher central government. Yes, and he is accustomed to drinking Chinese alcohol with Chinese officials during feast, and he knows how to strike a balance between what he wants, between what he wants and what is allowed, what the government wants. So yes, and another thing I thought of is that his success is attributed to the rising middle class, just as Sharon said before. So yes, I think consumption upgrade is one of the greatest field that both Chinese and foreign entrepreneurs could do something really amazing.
Okay, yeah. I think in this way you have to take into prospect, their focus. One is you really enter to the market doing business, or you doing manufacturing and export back. So there are two different ways to enter the market, right? So one case like just say a bottle of or equipment, or you go to Kickstarters, whatever. So there's you know that, okay, if you building a product in Canada or whatever, you take 6 months, right? In Shenzhen, you take 6 days. So this is the difference, right? So the cost-wise, everything will be different. So there's a very famous startup is doing HEX, H-E-X, and then they're doing hardware in support in Shenzhen. Why over there? Because Shenzhen is the hardware of the Silicon Valley, right? So because of Foxconn make Apple, and all these people after 20 years making Apple, they all come out to load, have know-how, knowledge, and building the peripherals around Shenzhen. That's why it become 50 million people over there. And so that's why there's a lot of good successful story, Canadian, Americans, whatever, going to China. They're not only doing inside sales, they're doing manufacturing and coming back. Okay, so this is one. The other one, of course, is you can produce over there and internal sales, right, over there. So there's another good successful story, but also there's a lot of theft over there, because don't focus on the as you say, maybe a lot of competition in set up over there in Shanghai. Maybe a lot of successful story is not going to Shenzhen or Shanghai, because it's so big competition. You go into the one that on the third level cities that, okay, I talk about even 10 million people. Huh? You know how many people in Shenzhen, in Shanghai? How many know? Population? 33 million, right? So how many people in Canada? So this is the difference, right? So they go to the second or third level city, going to build the case, and then internet, right? So once you get that's why the difficulty, you're going to talk to Shanghai government is very difficult. Go to the third level, fourth level government is much easier with your relationship, because you are becomes bigger than competition. And if you talk about internet, right, it's nothing, right? You go in there, you can spread along in the China area. So this is the successful story, right? Yeah.
Cool. I'm just going to go, I guess the thing that I've seen with I've known a couple, I'll talk about them in a minute, but I think passion, grit, concern for your Chinese customer, and then I have some good news for you. So I think it's very important that when you do go to the Chinese market, you're very passionate about what it is that you're trying to do there. It's you really have to believe in it, because that transcends well. But it's very important, because they can tell when somebody's not right away. It'll be over. Grit, you have to be determined in that sense as well, that to never give up. And we were just, well, a couple of people have mentioned just the challenges faced with the government and the red tape, and the timelines are a little bit different. I have a story about that actually. When I got married to my wife, we had to go to her province's capital, which was Hefei. So we arrived there on December 26th or 27th, something like that. We went to the marriage office, because there's an office for marriage, and we put in our marriage paperwork, whatever. They said, okay, come back in a few days. So we said, okay. So we came back the next day, and the office had moved the very next day. So we're like, well, what happened? So we found the new office, and then they told us, oh, sorry, it's not going to be today because we moved to the wrong office. So they had to move again. Anyways, I'm just giving you, and this is a very typical story. So you really have to have grit. You can't give up quickly. What I did is I started grabbing furniture and say, okay, tell me where the new office is. I'll help you, and you do that. And then he said, okay, we'll be ready tomorrow. But now I'm grateful because my anniversary is on December 31st, so I can't forget it. All right. Now, I was saying also, it's very important to have concern for your Chinese customers over there. If you are passionate and you really believe that what you're doing is going to help them, that's going to go a long way towards getting you the customers that you want over there. And they're once again going to be very interested in that kind of thing. And the good news that I wanted to share is that more and more, Eddie touched on it, but the internet. So there are ways to minimize risk nowadays and enter the Chinese market via the internet. There's a lot of platforms out there that are happening, and that might be a good way to test the markets early on before actually doing the physical jump and getting in there. I can tell you one thing, is that I know for a fact that Chinese people right now in mainland China, they have the ability to, and they want high quality products from, we mentioned the USA, European countries, whatnot. And in that sense, Canada is a fantastic brand. It's a trusted brand in China. If you say the word Canada, I'm from Canada, oh, Canada, yeah, okay, good. Sometimes, if you're from South Africa, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not a good thing. If you say you're from the US, maybe with Trump there, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure how that relationship's going. But Canadian, as far as I've known, has always been fairly a good thing. Like, oh, Canada, oh, cool. So anyways, that's, did I even, yeah? Okay, I think that's it.
That's great, giving examples of that.
I probably want to add a little bit more. So, because I realized what I said was a little bit too simple. I gave a little bit more thought about it when everyone else was talking. So I think that several points are very important. One is definitely the product. I think what Michael also said, like you have to really have a very good product. You have to have either a technology barrier, which means that the people in China, they probably cannot compete with your technology, or you have good business model, and with the ability to scale really quickly, because that's how China market works. You get into the market, if you're like internet companies, if you don't scale in 3 months, you're out. So we are typically talking about a 20 million user as the threshold to keep your company safe if you want to compete with Chinese competitors. Yeah, that's very crucial. And before that, you probably, yeah. And then the other one, I think, is the understanding about the Chinese culture is also very important. Well, not necessarily. Well, I mean, like if you're doing business in there, yeah, you probably, go out, have dinner. But people tend to talk about business over dinner or drinking. So you probably, that's something you have to adapt to. But the other thing is we understand your customer, the culture of your customers. I can think of one example is like how eBay, when it entered China market, how it lost to Taobao, which is the e-commerce platform of Alibaba, is because I think at that time Taobao has a function where it provides, I think it's Ali Wang Wang, so it gives you the function so you can chat. It's like instant messaging, a function between buyers and sellers. And it turns out that it's actually the key why eBay lost to Taobao, because people like to get to know about, like the buyers and the sellers. They actually want to talk and they want to know about each other a little bit before they start doing business with each other. But that's like a cultural thing, because I guess in here that doesn't, in Western world, it probably doesn't matter. And then the third one, I want to add a little bit to the strategic partnerships I mentioned. And then before I mentioned that you have to be able to partner with giant companies like Alibaba or like Jingdong, or even like Tencent or Baidu, or other big companies. Then the other thing you have to consider is actually establish your partnership with the government, and that's very important too. But it's probably hard for a completely foreign team to establish. So you probably need to find a good strategic partner, like a VC firm with China background, or a VC firm in China that can help you connect all the dots. Yeah.
It's great that you mentioned that, because later on we will have one of the questions, which is like for people who are from here, what's the best way, or do you have any advice in terms of like recommending them to how to enter China successfully, or like as the entry point?
Okay, then I will talk more details at that time. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to get a show of hands. How many of you currently have some questions in mind to kind of ask? I'm not gonna actually ask you, but I just get a show of hands. Please, 1, 2 people. Okay, so maybe we have 3 people. Yeah. I'm gonna ask one more question, and we'll have like a short Q&A for like 3 questions. Before we move on to like the following questions, just to get a sense of what you really care about and what you really want to ask our panelists. So the next question is, in your experiences, which areas or industries would be best as the starting point in the Chinese market, like from your experience? Or
Well, I'd like to start
Yeah.
with this one. Yeah. Sorry, I make this very personal. I'm sorry if that makes anybody uncomfortable. Both my kids were born in China, and I went through the milk powder crisis. Yeah, it was horrible. Essentially, what had happened at that time was that some companies making powdered milk had added some plastic or melamine or something like that to the powdered milk, and as a result, some infants died. Right? Sorry, I'm saying this my language. Now, at that point, that was a huge issue. There was a lot of frustration in China as such, and what happened was actually there was a milk powder drain from Hong Kong, because everybody from the mainland would actually travel to Hong Kong, buy quality milk powder, and then bring it back over the border. So much so that people would bring boxes like the size of these 2 tables together and stacked like 3 tall. It was insane. So they actually limited that. Now, all that being said, I would say that baby products in China are a great way to get started. If I had any skill in making baby products, I would be doing that right now. And that's, sorry, that's my 2 cents. That's what I think. There you go. That was it.
Okay, I guess I can add on to that. So one trend I mentioned earlier is due to the fast-growing economy is the consumption or consumer upgrade. So now Chinese customers in China are really getting more and more picky now. They don't just they're not satisfied with okay quality products. They are looking for better products. So one example is that one of the companies we looked at in China. It's like they're not doing anything fancy. So basically, Starbucks. There are a lot of Starbucks in China too, and then Starbucks has a dessert bakery section. It was actually outsourced to other suppliers locally, and then before they were not doing very well. I think they were selling their bakeries for around maybe like $4 Canadian dollars on average, but they're not doing very well. And then they did a survey, and then I think they realized that it was because the quality of the bakery is not good enough. And then there's this company that we looked at. The founder realized this problem and was able to come up with basically a better tasting bakery. And then they were able to use better ingredients and then price it at like a slightly higher price, like $5. And then Starbucks used their products, and it actually went very, very well. So, but that means that the customers, they don't mind paying a little bit more for better quality products, and that's becoming the trend in China. And the other two areas I mentioned, I think that one is because of the large population, some industries have advantages. One is the artificial intelligence, which is also our funds focus, investment focus, because it's generally easier and cheaper to gather data, and data is very important for AI companies. And this is just the case for China, and also industries that are relying on large population, like education and entertainment, and also like to tailor the aging population, the healthcare, and like senior living houses.
Yeah, I want to, okay. I kind of echo what Sandra and Michael said, that as I mentioned before, consumption upgrade is surely a very obvious field that we can do something, and because more and more Chinese are willing to try and pay for good quality, good service, and good taste. And education is really another field, because as you may know that for many families in China, one kid, they averagely have 6 adults to pay and invest in their future. So this is a field that is good. And another one is surely AI. And I want to say that as the government, because AI is, in China there are plenty amounts of data for you to training and improve your model. And then, but as the government is supportive of the domestic industry, I think it will be better to find a local partner for entering markets. And for AI, I think it will also be better if you could find appropriate field to apply your technology, such as manufacturing, because many enterprises in China they want to improve their efficiency because the labor cost is rising.
Okay, so they are talking about educations and health. So I'm thinking that several areas also can be focused, like food and beverage for sure. Let's talk about food and beverage first. Cafe Pacific, okay, in the beginning they talked with Spain, okay, at that time 2 years ago, and they want to open a passenger line from China to Barcelona. I don't know if it's Barcelona or Madrid. And so they're thinking about, okay, hey, this is a good business for tourists. But somehow comes out worth, okay, 90% is cargo. So because China wants prosciutto from Spain. Okay, so that's tell Chinese market actually want premium products. They don't want cheap products anymore. Wine is another product, and they're very popular right now, going to Canadian wine. As far as I know, some Canadian wine, private family already in over there. Food business. But I also want to talk about something they don't like. Okay. First of all, they like one that, okay, like the technology, they will. If you want to go on technology side, you can get a endorsement from government, because technology certificate, something like that. But if you go in that, okay, you need to have like 7 patents ready, so that they can give you a certificate. If you get that certificate, of course, you get an endorsement, you can have a funding, everything. So they are welcome on the Canadian or global company going there to set up a technology company over there. But of course, you carry with the IP. Going back with they don't like is for sure that is social media, dating. Okay, forget about that. Okay, so many rules that they will restrict it. Okay, don't think about social media. Facebook talk about so many years cannot go in. So also privacy law, and we have a friend over there talk about putting our clouds, the data in the Chinese Alibaba clouds with only $1. Why not putting in the Amazon clouds cheaper? No, of course not. It's a privacy, because they can monitoring you. Okay, for sure that it's very, very. You have to take a bet. Okay, to have a big brothers looking on your data, right? So that's something that you really have to be careful. Some of them they really not welcome, especially social media for sure.
Great insights. Thank you. Do we have any questions from, yes, I think.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you so much for starting this. Like I live in Vienna. I'm from Toronto, and I arrived, and when I saw the meetup, I thought, I'm a little bored because I'm working all the time, and so I wanted something different. But I'm really excited because the panel between this gentleman, who's much older, and saw Shenzhen. I have an Encyclopedia Britannica atlas, and I saw Shenzhen from 1980. It blew my mind to see how many people are there. I can't even imagine. I can't wait to go to China. I've never been there, right? And part of my reservation is a little bit from the media side. So when you see something like, you know, Apple Computer Store, it looks like Apple, it works like Apple, but it's not Apple, then my greatest fear is just this, you know. We all know that there's competition everywhere, right? We all know that people steal ideas from other people. We know this, right? But when we talk about actually creating wealth, it requires rule of law, so that I know that I have a mechanism. So there's something in the back of my mind where I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go to China. There's no question about it. I want to see Hong Kong and Shenzhen and Beijing, for sure I want to do that. My big reservation is that in starting a business over there, because I'm involved in Bitcoin, we do custody of Bitcoin. So I'd like to go there just to see what the industry is doing over there, but at the same time, I'm a little bit worried because, again, how do I protect myself, right? How do I protect myself? Food, sending it over there, I get it. If it's real, it's better than the cheap stuff. Technology, you can rip it off. It's very easy to, and then what kind of recourse do I have? Do you see what I mean? So for me, it's very much like...
Well, I mean, to be honest, since they've become part of the WTO, though, there's a bit more protection in terms of, especially in the technology.
Yeah, but you know what? I travel around the world,
Mm-hmm.
so this is what I see, behavior. I don't believe in the law. I don't believe in government. I don't believe in media. I walk on the street, and if I see that people are happy and smiling, this is a happy place. I don't know why they're happy, but they're smiling. Right? This is how I think. So I can't wait to get to China, but you know, I think it's really a beautiful place. I have many friends that have been there and done business. But the one question I have for you really is, I go there and start a business. Who the hell is going to protect me if it's not my partner? And if it's my partner, are they strong enough? And do I have to get in bed with the government? I get it. It's not the only place in the world where you have to get in bed with the government. Even the Canadian government, you need to get in bed with the government. Right? So how do you protect yourself over there?
Talk about Bitcoin maybe, huh? So you know the Chinese right now, they are very ambitious at doing Bitcoin mining, whatever. So that mining Bitcoin, right, most of them is not, of course, it's not regulated in China. They will shut down your factory in a minute, in a seconds. But most of them are moving to Mongolia or Canada doing Bitcoin. Right now they are very hot in Montreal and in Manitoba, right? Because of the lower electricity power costs.
Right.
But actually Manitoba is getting 7% up in the power. But having said that, okay, go back to your Bitcoin business. If you go into China, so for sure that okay, you have to take a little risk because they will shut down. It's not regulated. Same, I tell you that okay, I know a little about the financial.
no, I'm not planning on opening up.
Just say okay, talk about like monetary again, right?
Yeah.
So the regulation, as you say, yes, is very. Sometimes that okay, you're doing. There's a lot of laws, thousands of laws in China, but how many really follow the laws? Give you an example. Actually, you know, WeChat and Alipay, these two QR code is not allowed in China. Actually, it's not regulated because even the government is not open the regulation to using QR code to using payment transactions. But why? Because the government say fine, I let them open because I let them go. But the law, if they want to change it, it's so difficult, right? So this is one of the. So as everyone is happy in China, actually, I tell you, is every day when you woke up, business is ongoing, still going, right? And food poison getting less. But a lot of Western people stay in China. They are they have a very good living. Right? I think in especially you are Western, you are well protected. I tell you, You don't have any problem with if you are Western people carrying with a passport. You are well protected. No one wants to touch Western people.
They feel responsible for you, actually. They feel responsible for your safety and stuff like that.
I'm not thinking, listen, I'm not worried
Yeah,
about
yeah. I mean
anything.
that's all.
I do not worry about somebody hitting me or...
No. You
know, but
no one will hit
even I'm thinking
you.
like that.
Even on another
If it was
level,
Brazil, I would.
no, even on another
By the
level,
way, I also live in Vietnam for some Vienna for some time.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
So
But
what
that's why
I
I-
worry about?
Huh?
What are you worried about?
You don't need to
Safe, food, water, air, or what are you worried about? IP?
No, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, the
That's
IT.
that's
Okay, right now.
Intellectual property.
Sorry, I'll give you one more sentence about IP.
Yeah.
IP. Right now, if you, a lot of people asking me this question. Okay, how to protect my product, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Once you register, normally you have a register in Canada or North America or Americans. Okay, and then the last one, the third one, I very highly recommend is China. So once you register the IP, what happens is the Alibaba, if you find someone over there, they put it over there, they will take it down. If you already protected, they are really concerned about IP in China at this moment. So it's work. It's work. Don't thinking about China, just copy. Yes, China, a lot of apps are copying, but they duplicate, right? I mean, but they're doing you good. But I mean, they work, getting better and better. IP works, and at least you cannot. If you have a product in Alibaba, you IP that the other one will be taken down immediately. Same with Amazon. That's right. Sorry,
Don't worry about IP. For example, the American movie, maybe 5 years before, always first show in America. Then 2 months ago, we can see this movie in China. Why? Because they worry about their IP. Somebody will copy them before they are shown in China, right? But now we always show one day together at one time. You can see movie in America. Now you also can see in China same date because now government is protecting the IP. Don't worry. You need to worry about
That's
your
why I came
idea.
tonight. I wanted to just ask a question.
No, it's okay.
Things change, man. That's why I came.
I think it is better.
I didn't come here to say you guys, not to go there because of IP. I said, did something change? I don't know. Maybe it did.
yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, I can't wait to go to China.
Another way is to just very quickly, but consistently set the standard. Then nobody can follow. They just can't. Just can always be going forward. That's what we used to do in the English school.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what business you are really doing, right? If you are doing like really, if what you're trying to do has like really high technology barrier, I can think of one example. Back in March of this year, everyone, between the U.S. and China trade war, and then one key component is the chips, because U.S. has been a pioneer in making the chips, basically, and then have China tried to catch up? They have tried all of the ways they could, but the thing is, there is a huge technology barrier. Even though they tried what they can, get the chips and just like open the chips and try to copy everything, it still didn't work as well as the U.S. products, and that's the technology barrier I'm talking about. It's not like it's not something you can just copy easily. Yeah. And then depends if your business is really reliant on business model, there might be some risks because business model is not that hard to copy, right? Then it gets down to how you grow your business, and it gets down to what strategic partners you can get with you, not just the government, but also like the local giant companies and the local VCs, like the capital basically. And the other way, I think, I think. Well, I have another point, but I all of a sudden forgot. But basically, how you scale your business too. Like you have to be able to scale your business quickly. Like I mentioned before, if you are still trying to just work like 10 hours or like 8 hours a day, but your Chinese competitor is going to catch up with you very quickly. So you have to be able to beat them in the speed of scaling your business and always have better and better products. Yeah, so that's very important. I think the markets do value that. Yeah.